Welcome to Future Ready Live, where we discuss topics that will help CPAs, CGMAs, and their organizations adapt and thrive in an accelerating, exponentially changing world. I'm your host, Tom Hood, the EVP of Business Engagement and Growth at AICPA and CIMA, the largest global body of certified professional accountants in the world. Today, April 30th, is National Apprenticeship Day, and we are joining other professions, government and workforce leaders, and the education community in the nationwide celebration to showcase the successes and value of the registered apprenticeship for rebuilding our economy and supporting underserved communities. This is the first in a series. With us today are three people who are very active in apprenticeships and are here to help us celebrate this really important event. Starting with Matt McKenney, he's the CEO of Job Forward, a nonprofit organization serving the needs of industry, job seekers, education, and workforce system partners across the country. Job Forward works to enhance the effectiveness of the nation's workforce by developing and implementing sustainable talent development solutions, such as apprenticeships, ensuring economic growth and development. Matt has over 20 years of experience in workforce development, apprenticeship program design, and management. Matt, say hello to our audience.
Hello. Thank you, Tom, for having me.
Thank you for being here. Next is Chris Cagle. He's a leading voice in apprenticeship innovation and workforce development. As a director of business services and apprenticeship at California's South Bay Workforce Investment Board, he has pioneered non-traditional, employer-driven models that will help expand access to quality career pathways across aerospace, bioscience, and other key sectors. He has expertise in grant management, youth apprenticeship, and public-private partnerships. Chris, welcome, and say hello to the audience.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tom. Happy to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity and can't wait for our discussion.
It's great to have you here. And now, last but not least, is Joanne Fiore on my team. She's the vice president at AICPA and CIMA and is responsible for the CGMA pipeline and apprenticeship program. That apprenticeship program is the first in accounting and finance in the United States, providing an apprenticeship into the finance business partner role. She and her team have grown the program quickly to include a second, more entry-level occupation, and even a high school program, proving the apprenticeship model works for hiring and upskilling finance teams. So again, Matt, Chris, and Joanne, welcome to Joanne. Say hi to the audience for us.
Hello and happy National Apprenticeship Day. Thank you, Tom.
That is very true. All right. So I'm going to say it's wonderful to have you three here with us to celebrate this important program and its potential as a framework for recruiting, upskilling, and retention in a variety of professions. And we have to say it's not just for training plumbers anymore, because that is what we hear every time we mention apprenticeship, people affiliated with the trades. So Matt, let's talk about that. In the past, if we mentioned apprenticeships, you would hear, I don't need a plumber or electrician or you name that trade. And that is undoubtedly changed.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, it has changed dramatically. Apprenticeship as a framework is used in almost every employment sector today by employers large and small. Job Forward has the privilege of working across the country on apprenticeships in healthcare, IT, advanced manufacturing, including aerospace, education, both K-12 and ECE, and of course finance, and among many other sectors. So it is something that is gaining in popularity, and the country, I think, is gaining a better understanding of what the apprenticeship framework is, and it's exciting to see growth. It is, I would say, dramatically expanded over the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Can you give us a quick overview of apprenticeships as a framework for recruiting and retention?
Yeah, specifically for recruiting and retention, apprenticeship is largely used in two ways. First, apprenticeship in the more traditional way is used as training for new hires. The interesting thing about a robust apprenticeship program and or framework that's been applied is it allows an organization to look at a broader talent pool. You have the opportunity to bring talent in based on a variety of circumstances or factors that are important to the organization. And then you can rely on your apprenticeship program to ensure that somebody has the skills and abilities to be successful in the role. The second is upskilling current employees in response to emerging technologies. I don't know if anybody's heard of AI, but that's one thing that is certainly emerging and has everybody thinking, how am I going to upskill my employees in whatever sector you're in? And apprenticeship is a framework that can absolutely do that. It allows you to build a program that will move somebody from one skill set in their current role to another to address emerging technologies and concerns you may have with your current population. It also allows you to move somebody from one role to the next from a promotional perspective. And I think both of those speak to retention. It's an investment in your individuals. It keeps their skill set relevant over a long period of time. It ensures that employers have the skill set they need. It also creates opportunities for people, and that can generate and create loyalty. So absolutely, in both cases, apprenticeship fits.
Nice. So now, in your work with organizations across the country, what innovative models for apprenticeship have you seen?
That's a great question, Tom. So at Job Forward, we do have the opportunity to work with organizations across the country on a variety of models across a variety of sectors. We're fortunate to have two of the innovators on the call with us today. I have the privilege of working on a regular basis with Chris at South Bay WIB. He's a workforce board in California. California has multiple workforce boards. It's a large state, so they've got lots of areas they need to service. But the South Bay WIB has looked at apprenticeship as a way to support the growth of the workforce. But what's interesting is workforces generally focus on service area. And Chris initially thought, how could he help the entire state and encourage other workforce boards to learn about and implement and promote apprenticeship. And more recently, Chris has expanded to national as it relates to his sponsorship. He's submitted national standards in support of a space initiative that he's connected to nationally. But really creative thinking and not something that you often see from a workforce board. And what's really interesting about a workforce board being engaged in apprenticeship is Chris is connected to many other workforce development programs, and he gets to serve both the individual participants and the employers looking across all those programs and leveraging the apprenticeship model. So I give him a lot of credit there. And then, of course, AICPA, we had the privilege of working on your national standards to become a sponsor, innovating in the finance space and thinking through what does the first national US based apprenticeship program look like in finance? What are the needs of the many members of AICPA as it relates to the finance and how it's evolving? And it's been really exciting to see that program be implemented, grow, serve clients, think about needs, really look at across the national sort of need related to finance, but also your organization has been very agile and been able to focus locally to really help at the state level to understand what the needs are based on your employer base and the participants that are involved. So really excited, and two examples of very, very good innovative apprenticeship models.
Well, we appreciate working with you on this because that's really what helped us get started here. So thank you very much. Let's double click into what Chris is doing. So Chris, talk a little bit about the South Bay Workforce Investment Board and the services it provides.
Great. Would happy to do that. So for those that may not know, the Workforce Board system is a national system, and when the federal government and Congress pass a big jobs bill, it goes out to the states and we push it out to the communities. So a lot of what we do is just a pass through of funding to get people prepared for jobs and trained. So we're essentially helping businesses find workers, and we're helping people find jobs and training those people. And so the apprenticeship model is one of our many services at a workforce board. And it's a little bit of an advantage to be at a workforce board too, because when I'm talking to an employer, I'm offering not only apprenticeship, but all the other services that we have here. So as we build relationships with employers, sometimes they don't start initially with the apprenticeship. Maybe they're starting with one of our other programs. And then as we work with them on that, we've helped them to get familiar and roll out an apprenticeship program at their company. One of the things that we've really tried hard to do as well is make our program as flexible as possible for employers, and we approach that as a strategy, in other words, to be very employer centric. So as we're building relationships with the employers, we're trying to really understand what their needs are and what problems they might be having related to workforce, and then offering apprenticeship as a solution to those problems. And then that way, we're guided by the employers, and we're ensuring that what we're delivering to them is something that they will need and use.
Nice. So a couple things. You mentioned this idea of national program standards. What's that about?
So again, that was germinated from the employers themselves. One of the things they gave us, actually several, as we talked to employers, they said, you got to give us something that's flexible, like a flexible curriculum, because they need to be able to pivot with market conditions. And as they bring in people, they need to be able to train them in the occupations that they are going to place them in. And every individual has a little different skill levels. So our program had to be flexible. It had to scale. Employers, I mentioned there's workforce boards all over the nation, and many times we're limited to a service area. But for the employer, they want a solution that will scale to wherever they do business. So that led to us to think, as Matt mentioned earlier, to think more than just regional, but we started, how can we deliver a solution to them that works at least all over California? And then other employers, like some of the larger ones like Northrop Grumman, they needed it even further than California. They needed it to work across the country. And it was an apprenticeship with the Department of Labor that allowed that to happen. And so with the direction of the employers and their support, we took our programs and registered it nationally. So now that our programs work anywhere in the state, any state in the country. And that way, the work we do here locally will also work in Florida and other places where those companies might be located.
Nice.
And so that's where that came from.
Got it. Yep. And interesting enough, that's what we followed, that blueprint, if you will. We followed national standards. We are an intermediary, which is a little bit unique. We're not an employer. We're an association with a bunch of employers looking for people. So we become the intermediary to help employers match and explain what this apprenticeship's all about and those kind of things. So I'm going to come back to Joanne. We're going to double click into our program here, Joanne. So tell us what you're most excited about regarding these apprenticeships. I mean, you've been learning your way in for the last 2 or 3 years as we got this moving. So talk to us.
Well, there's a lot I'm excited about, Tom. I think what I'm most excited about is that we've taken an established, centuries-old workforce development and training tool and applied it, from the trades, and have really transitioned it successfully to the professions. And how exciting that really is, that we're providing a turnkey upskilling program that's affordable and resulting in a globally recognized credential to really meet finance leaders' needs. And as you know, that's what finance leaders are telling us. Upskilling is a leading concern, and that we're providing a proven solution to them that combines our learning with on-the-job training and mentor support. And it's so exciting to be able to provide a resource that works, that's being asked for, that's affordable. So at the highest level, that's what I'm most excited about.
That's spot on. And now the other part is, we've been talking a lot about mindset at our future finance meetings. And we've concluded that the right mindset is the number one piece of getting people started to be able to grow and learn leadership and have an impact. So that raises the question, how do you develop the right mindset? Can apprenticeships actually help developing a mindset inside these finance teams?
What a great question. Can mindset be taught? Absolutely, apprenticeships can teach mindset. And I want to tell you a little story. Recently, I spoke to a corporate controller from one of the largest manufacturers in the country. And I was talking just about, what's going on for him. And he said he's spending 50% of his time on tariffs. And much like what was going on during COVID, it was unexpected, uncertain, and he needed to use sense making, critical thinking, storytelling to chart a path for his company. And real success skills, right? What we now call success skills. That followed 2 years of business transformation for his company. And business transformation, we know, requires resiliency, collaboration, team building. And research shows that these success skills can be taught and practiced in an instructional setting ahead of time. Sure, you can just throw people in when the crisis hits and you need to use them, or you can use experiential learning, which underpins apprenticeships, and learn them ahead of time. Classroom learning plus on-the-job training augmented by a mentor that has their arm around your shoulder, using like our learning, scenario-based learning, real-world examples, so you apply it, you go on the job and you work on it, and the mentor helps you through it. Absolutely, you can learn those kinds of skills. And we're excited that the apprentices in our program are learning them and now needing to apply them.
Yep, exactly. It couldn't be better. The timing, you're exactly right on. So what are some of the other benefits of apprenticeships that we're celebrating today?
Well, Matt mentioned retention, and there's a well-used statistic that 91% of apprentices are still on the job 1 year after they complete their program. And that, it certainly makes sense. When you upskill and provide a career path, your best and brightest stay with you. And we're thrilled about that and celebrating that. The other thing is that we piloted a high school program in Maryland. And, Harvard has a great study out about 2 years ago that says high school students can do about 70% of the work of a new hire if trained appropriately. And we're really excited. We were testing, would finance team hire high school students in an apprenticeship program? And they did. And they're not making coffee and filing. And instead, they're getting real world experience. They're getting the job done for the employer, and they're helping the accounting pipeline. And anything AICPA can do to help the accounting pipeline, we are all in on. So I'm really excited about youth apprenticeships and the fact that our high school pilot was such a success in Maryland, and that we're looking to expand that nationally.
Awesome. I mean, that's wonderful stuff. That is why it's Happy Apprenticeship Day. What are some of the other trends that you're seeing in apprenticeships?
Matt, why don't you go ahead and take that
Sure.
one?
Happy to go. So I think we've talked about some of them, but certainly the growth in the non-traditional sector of apprenticeship is a trend. And I don't think it's just growth in numbers. It's growth in the sectors that are considering using them, the types of occupations they're being used for. We talked about finance and AICPA, but I also think there's other what would be considered professional apprenticeship programs like engineering in the aerospace sector that we've seen apprenticeship being used to develop talent across through to, I think that one of the trends certainly is teacher and educator apprenticeship programs, because it's a way or a pathway to develop that talent and also create access to those opportunities where people might not otherwise have had or considered those types of roles. I also want to focus a moment too, when we're thinking about professional or non-traditional apprenticeship programs, sometimes the credentials that are associated with those roles, a trend actually in hiring is the concept of skills-based hiring. Is there a way to hire talent based on the skill set they have versus sort of traditional credentials? An apprenticeship is a really good fit in this space. It's a way to think through, to Joanne's point, how do we bring somebody in and expose them to the learning, their education, give them the experience, and also pair them with a mentor so they're applying this and accelerating the process to that level of skills needed for someone to be successful. But I think apprenticeship also pairs very well with degrees and some of these more traditional credentials. It can act as a scaffold to get people there, or they can be joined as it relates to working directly with colleges and institutions that provide these credentials to ensure that the employer gets the person they need in the seat to do the work, but they're also getting the education and experience that they would have gotten from a college, and then they end up with that credential, which can be important for somebody's future growth. So I would say those are trends that we're seeing, and I think they're really positive trends, and things that we can be excited about as it relates to growth, because opportunities, it shouldn't just be one, right? They should be stackable. Especially you get somebody in a growth mindset and they're learning and they get this new experience and opportunity, it's not going to be long and they'll want the next one. And an apprenticeship can act as that sort of those building blocks to get somebody through an organization and provide the high level talent that you need.
I like
Joanne, did you have some thoughts on trends?
Well, I'll pass it over. Well, let me just do a brief shout out for the two executive orders that just came down on from the administration. The first one providing resources and support to grow apprenticeships in AI, which we're very excited about. You know, Tom is AICPA's thought leader in that area. So Tom, we're excited about that.
Yeah.
And then support and resources to increase the number of apprentices to 1 million. And we appreciate that apprentices have bipartisan support and are excited about that. So I'll toss it over to Chris after mentioning those two things.
Oh, thank you, Joanne. And to tag along to what you were saying about youth apprenticeship, one of the big trends now, of course, is pre-apprenticeship. And we're seeing a lot of interest in that. There's always been some effort in that area, but now that apprenticeship is becoming more and more used and well known, that exploratory career exploration piece is more and more important. And the schools that we work with, one of the things workforce boards do is work in the K-12 system, and then the community college, university, and all the way to employment. And so we're thinking in terms of pathways that start at young ages that go all the way through their training to employment. And the school districts that we work with are very interested in new and innovative ways to expose their student body to other careers. And many times opportunities that come up with our apprenticeship programs aren't necessarily offered to some of our school districts by other means. So we've got a program that we've developed called Flex, and it's that flexible curriculum I mentioned earlier. So we have AeroFlex, focusing on aerospace, Space Flex, focusing on space, BioFlex, IT Flex, Health Flex. And so we market these programs to the high school students, usually the seniors, and then we put cohorts together and they go through an experience that is a 3-step process. It's work readiness training, it's occupational skills training, and an employer experience at the end. And then the students, when they graduate, they get certificates from us, certificates from the training they did, they get a stipend from us, and then we help guide them along on what the next step is in their career pathway. And so our latest one is Skyflex. It's going to be an aviation apprenticeship, and they're going to learn what it takes to become a pilot. So it'll have 4 steps. They'll get exposed to what it's like to be an aircraft mechanic, a drone pilot, working in an air traffic control tower, and becoming a pilot, a commercial pilot. And the program includes a flight in a plane that they can fly. So we have a partner here at the airport locally that's going to participate in that. So that's real exciting.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Can I jump in and share one more thought as it relates to trends and the way we've seen them addressed? Because I want to call out AI has been mentioned, and Tom, I want to share. I had the privilege of sitting in a leadership event hosted by AICPA, where you talked about future of finance and emerging trends, and provided an opportunity for us to interact with an AI expert and really thinking through the trends related to some of these changes that are coming. And I want to give AICPA accolades for leading the finance sector in that space. And also, as we've talked about all this stuff today, providing the mechanism for somebody to be successful. So it's not just providing the guidance and thought leadership. AICPA is also on trend with providing the sponsorship and the framework for somebody to sign up and get their individuals upskilled and on the path to success. So I just wanted to sort of tie all that together. And if there was an opportunity to give you a shout out, I think it's important because it's amazing to sit back and watch.
I appreciate that. And it's all about the wisdom of the crowd, right? We convene a bunch of these big corporate CFOs and thought leaders, and we say, what are you dealing with? And then they help guide our agenda. So it literally is created by them for them, and we're just the convening body to help pull all that together. I'm going to add one trend to this, which is state legislation that we recently passed, and Joanne was up front testifying on our governor's panel. So Governor Moore signed into law the RAISE Act, Registered Apprenticeship Investments for a Stronger Economy in Maryland. So that bill was signed into law, and that will include some funding and special programs for intermediaries like us, as well as benefits to employers to help incentivize employers to do these kind of innovative apprenticeships models that are coming out. So we're pretty much proud of that, which is another trend going on. So lots of celebration going on here with you guys, and we really appreciate it. With that, I want to say thank you, Matt, Chris, and Joanne, for joining us. You can follow Matt McKenney, McKenney, on LinkedIn, Chris Cagle, ChrisCagle, and Joanne Fiore, JoanneFiore. So everybody, join us the first and third Tuesday of noon Eastern, with the exception of this special edition, for our Future Ready Live. And for you guys, say goodbye to our listening audience.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Happy Apprenticeship Day.